No man is more important than the team. No coach is more important than the team. The team, the team, the team.
Welcome to another edition of The Gulo. And now, here are the Larrabee boys, Zach and Kyle.
Well, the year was 2001, and Kyle, if you remember, we would go over to Uncle Roger's and Aunt Tish's every single year for the annual Michigan State game, the big brother versus little brother, the in-state rivalry, the house divided game. And our cousin Aaron was a big Michigan State fan, and our Aunt Mary was a big Michigan State fan. Everybody else was Michigan fans. We're in the living room, we're watching the game. It's a close game. And towards the end, as Michigan State is going in to score a touchdown, the clock stops at 1 second. It stops at 1 second on the play clock with hardly any time remaining. Now, the clock shouldn't have stopped. It should have kept going down to zero, but it paused for a moment, and it allowed Michigan State's quarterback, Jeff Smoker, to roll out and throw a touchdown pass with no time left on the clock for Michigan State to win the game. We call that game the annual clock gate game because we swear that the clock had paused at 1 and the game should have been over. He should have had no time to spike the ball, to have another play, to roll out and to score a touchdown. And I remember that was the first Michigan game that I really felt sick after the game was over. I felt so sick when we went home. I just felt so defeated. I felt like we had been cheated. And the following year, we went back to Uncle Roger's and Aunt Tish's game for the annual Michigan State game. This time it was in Ann Arbor, not East Lansing. And I remember Aaron was there again, and we were all kind of talking trash. And I still felt a little sick from the year before, and I didn't want that to happen again. Well, Michigan State, they go up 3-0 on us, and I started kind of getting that sick feeling again. But believe it so, Michigan ended up prevailing and putting a dominating show on, winning 49-3. That would be the only points that Michigan State scored all game. And I remember leaving. I was so excited. I was so happy. And Michigan's dominance over Michigan State was restored. And that sick feeling still kind of remains there from that moment. But I remember we had beat them so bad the year after that I felt a lot better. And this week, we are continuing this tradition, this house divided, this in-state rivalry, as we play Michigan State again. This is Michigan State week, COVID edition, 2020 pandemic. We're playing in Ann Arbor, and this is going to be a great game. Despite what anybody thinks about Michigan State, it's a rival game. It's going to be a big game. We have to bring our A game, and I think we're going to be very pleased with what we see based upon what we saw from Michigan this past weekend. But before we get into that, from this recap of this weekend with Michigan, Minnesota, and looking forward to Michigan and Michigan State, I kind of want to recap Big Ten football in general this past weekend because we kicked off at week 1, week 7 or 8 for other conferences. What games stood out to you as you look around the conference at the games that had happened?
Well, Zach, I'm going to tell you right now, obviously the one game that stood out to me was the Michigan-Minnesota game. But obviously before that got going, I really the two games that stood out to me were very obvious: the Penn State Indiana game and the Michigan State and Rutgers game. I mean, with Penn State losing, I mean that was a shocker. But Indiana, they've always been known to almost upset teams, almost get there. But just they're always just a little short. So for them to actually go over the hump and to beat Penn State and to actually win that signature game it was unbelievable. It was amazing. That was a shocker. The Michigan State game, that was a huge shocker in the wrong reasons. I mean, for Mel Tucker, whoo, boy, you're going to be you'll be feeling this for quite a while. I mean, where is the Rutgers at? You know, it's one of those games where it's just like, come on, man. Michigan, little brother, really with the upset. That was probably the biggest shock of the day for me was Michigan State losing to this New Jersey Rutgers team. So
Yeah, and it was first year coach Greg Schiano, or second year coach, or no, his first year, but second tenure at Rutgers, and putting the whooping on Mel Tucker. I think it's anytime you have 7 turnovers in a game, it's not going to be good for you. And you can tell Michigan State, Mel Tucker getting hired in February, and then the pandemic happening, not having a whole lot of time with his players. You can tell that that's taking a big toll on them already. And so we'll see how fast they bounce back. I expect them to be ready for Michigan. It'll be a tough rivalry game.
You already got people already on Twitter saying, can we get rid of Mel Tucker? Can we get rid of him? And I'm over here like, man, that ain't going to happen. I mean, they got statistics out. You know, if you try to get rid of Mel Tucker in your first year, I think you still got to pay him out like $20 million, $25 million or something like that.
And look,
loose statistic. But that was $18 million the second year. But there's a lot of moral that goes into that. And
look, too. I mean, look, this is his first. It's his first year. It's first
year.
It's not only that, but he took the job. Mark D'Antonio left that program in shambles. Like, it was to the point to where he took his $4.2 million bonus, left. Mel Tucker came in. He didn't have more than 3 weeks, I don't think, with his players, and then the pandemic happened, all that stuff. Michigan State, look, as big as a rival it is, I can understand, the start that they're off to based upon the inability for them to prepare well for the season as other teams were able to prepare for. Because Greg Schiano, I think, was hired in November, and so he had a little bit more time. But, yeah, anyway.
But again, it's the Rutgers.
Again,
it's the Rutgers,
They definitely looked a lot different.
The thing is there was a lot of turnovers. There was a lot of turnovers in that game, especially in the first quarter, with the Rutgers game. So, but still, even with the turnovers and all the mistakes that Michigan State made, I mean, for them to lose in general, that's just wow.
But again, I like you brought up Indiana, man. Coach Allen, in that overtime, as they're driving down the field, he told his offensive coordinator, "Look, if we score, start thinking of plays right now where we can go for 2, because I'm sick of being so close. I actually want to beat them. I want to beat a team. I'm sick and tired of being close and not close enough." And so, hats off to them and their team. It's gonna be a tough game as we head to Indiana here in a couple weeks to take on the Hoosiers. And so, anyway, moving forward to the biggest.
Well, that's something that we have to do.
Yeah. We gotta be ready for it. It's definitely coming a lot sooner. Usually we play them the second to last week of the season, but we're playing them in 2 weeks from now, so it'll be tough on the road. But moving forward
it's scary.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's definitely scary because Indiana is that type of team. We almost lost to them a couple times with Harbaugh where it was really close, and that could be this. We could be in that same situation. So I'm definitely going to be antsy, and that's definitely going to be a trap game. And we got to be ready to play a really good Indiana, a good sound team in a couple weeks with them too. So you got Wisconsin, then you got this Indiana team. It's a tough season. So
it's gonna be a tough one. But before we can even think about Indiana, we're looking at Michigan State this week. But before we even do that, in this specific episode, we're going to recap the biggest game in the Big Ten, and that was Michigan versus Minnesota. Man, I was so excited before the game. I was nervous. All the nerves were pumping. But as soon as kickoff happened, I felt great. We didn't get off to a great start. That first drive, the first play was good, but then Ben Mason had the flag, and then we got our punt blocked, and then Minnesota scored. But then right after that probably was my favorite moment of the game, and I think it's because of the way we responded. Our first play on that drive from the line of scrimmage, Zach Charbonnet just shoots. He was like a bolt that got shot out of a gun, straight up the middle, untouched. Safety was out of place a bit, and he just shot right off for a 70-yard touchdown. That was my favorite moment of the game because the way we responded, and it set the tone for the rest of the game because no matter what Minnesota did, Michigan responded as a championship team does. And so I got really excited. As I will look back on that Minnesota game, I always look back at that run from Zach Charbonnet as the pinnacle moment for me in that game. What about you, Kyle? What was the biggest moment for you in this past week's game as we kicked it off versus Minnesota?
Well, I will say that I think you really nailed it with the Charbonnet run. I remember Dad calling me, and he was like, "Man, I haven't seen a run like that. Seems like for 30 years, and it's just the old school smash mouth football. You're running 70, 80 yards right up the middle, just gutting the defensive line. But for me, I really loved. I tweeted this out too. Was for one, Carlo Kemp looked like he was in fast forward right off the bat. What was it, the first series or second series? It looked like he practically took the running back and Tanner Morgan's head off in the backfield there. But the biggest, even before that, or even really my favorite though, was with Tanner Morgan getting his head ripped off, and
Donovan Jeter picking up the ball after Barrett smacked him. You talking about that play?
Yeah, Donovan Jeter just it was just nuts. So I think that was probably my favorite play. Was Donovan Jeter getting that 15-yard carry after they fumbled the ball right into his hands and running in for a touchdown. So
yeah, it was awesome. I remember Michael Barrett, he came up on that play and just he kind of paused for a minute because he wanted to see if the running back had the ball. But as soon as he found out that Tanner Morgan still had the ball, man, the way that he just shot right forward and smacked him, he fumbled the ball. It was awesome. I think it's a play that's always going to be on rerun. So it was overall a good game. We have a lot to get into with this game. I mean, it was Joe Milton's first game. He came out, looked poised as ever. The stats aren't really going to show how great of a game he played. He had an opportunity, if a couple receivers didn't drop a couple of balls there, that he would have had a couple more touchdowns. But he looked poised. The defense hung in there and played well with some young defensive backs. Our special teams didn't play that great, especially in the field goal game. You're going to get into that here in a moment. But overall, man, it was a great game. It was a great win for Michigan. And I think the best moment overall, not that didn't happen on the field necessarily, it really happened in the locker room before the game, because before they ran out there, Ben Mason gave a speech which I believe set the tone for this Michigan football team in this 2020 season. You see, this team is super selfless. This team is not selfish whatsoever. And I think you saw that last year as all these new freshmen came in. They were a team that only wanted to play together. They did not want to play for themselves, but they wanted to play for one another, for Bo Schembechler, the team. And before they ran out on the field, Ben Mason gives a speech. He says, look, Joe Milton, speaking to him, this is your night. This is your start. He says, we're going to block. We're going to catch. We're going to do our job. We're going to do what we have to do so that you can be successful. And that just goes to show the identity of this team, that they are for one another. They're not for themselves. And it just, I have not felt this way about a Michigan football team in a very long time. I think that the camaraderie and the closeness and the oneness that this team has excels what the 2016 team was at, the year where we had almost that playoff run there towards the end. This team is very, very special. And man, I just don't think I've felt this way about a Michigan team in a long time, if not ever. And so why don't you go ahead and bring us through some of these stats and some of these game time plays that really made this game so special for us?
Yeah, well, I mean, you touched on a lot of it, especially in the beginning, but pretty much what it was Michigan was favored going into this game at 3.5 points. And Harbaugh, before the game, he was on the press conferences or on the live videos, and he was explaining that he really feels with this team that they have oneness. He was trying to explain to the best of his ability that they really are a full team. They're oneness. They're unified. They play as a team. They have really good camaraderie. And that they really want to win for each other. They're really hungry. They're motivated, and they have a lot of confidence, and they really look up to their quarterback in Joe Milton. And I think that's one thing that they've been kind of missing this whole, past six years of the Harbaugh era, is that elite step up quarterback. And I've said this for a long time, and I thought we had it with certain quarterbacks, but with Joe Milton, we definitely have it. So even before the game, there was a lot of confidence that I could see coming from this oneness, this joint effort between everybody, especially with a West Coast balanced offense. You're looking for a balanced running, balanced passing, balanced quarterback who can run and pass and do your short passes, your long passes, just a balance on all sides. So going into the game, right off the bat, we get this nice long pass to Blake Corum, which I thought was pretty awesome. Right off the bat, I was like, here we go. That's nice. That's what we want to see. But obviously, Joe Milton was a little stiff. He was a little, you could tell he had to, really kind of find himself, kind of get going. And pretty much what happened after that, it started going downhill with Ben Mason, his 15-yard penalty where he drove his guy into the pylon, into the field marker guy, which I thought was awesome. I mean, that's smash mouth football. That's
great block. Yeah.
Ben Mason all the way. That's what he does. He's focused. He's blacked out. He's hungry, and I loved it. I thought it was a statement. It's saying right off the bat that we're here to play. We want this more than you do, and we're going to get it from you.
That's right.
And I look, he almost took him to the bench, to the stadium there, but I loved it. But he did get a 15-yard penalty off that, which I didn't love. And obviously, we kind of lost some momentum right off the bat there. Then a punt block sent Minnesota, Tanner Morgan, sent them for a touchdown right off the bat. So here we are, 7-0, and I'm like, man, here we go again, another year. Just like Shea Patterson last year, a fumble right off the bat against Middle Tennessee. It's just I don't know. I kind of felt for a second there, just oh crap, So yeah. I called you, and I was like, dude, what's going on with this team, man? I was like, I'm freaking out. And you're like, dude, just calm down. They got to settle in. Joe Milton's got to settle in. They all got to settle in. They got to just calm down. They got to really get in the groove and get moving. They'll be okay. They just got the butterflies, a little bit of jitter. I was like, I hope so. I hope you're right, Zach, because, man, we did not look good off that first series, So, but then after that, we came out rocking with Charbonnet with that 70-yard run. Yeah. And then after that, it was like I remember Carlo Kemp taking Tanner Morgan's head off practically. And then I remember with Michael Barrett, the Viper position, really rocking the Viper position, taking Tanner Morgan's head off, and then Jeter taking the ball for 15 yards in the end zone. So that to me was just awesome. I was like, yes, here we go, baby. I
jumped off the couch.
Like a video. Yeah, I put on Twitter, man, me over here just clapping and jamming. It's just honestly the beginning of that game was just it was a roller coaster up and down, and it was my anniversary this weekend, so I took my wife.
Congratulations
for 10 years.
To you guys.
Yeah, 10 years, and so I took her to Mount Pleasant, Sullivan's Island, and we were doing Instagram videos, Twitter videos of me throwing up the Michigan gang sign all weekend. Everywhere I went, I was like, yeah, go blue. So, but that day before the game, I was on Saturday morning, man, I was taking shots on Sullivan Island of on Instagram of the sunrise, and it was awesome. Really good videos, but I started getting the butterflies. I started getting nervous, man. I was really unsettled, but I felt like I was a player, and I was just anxious, nervous. I had that same feeling there right after that first series, and it was 7-0, and then we tied up 7-7. I was kind of like, it's just it was tight. But you know what? It was like after that, every time they punched us, we had a counter punch. Yeah. And it seemed like after we hit a couple counter punches back, it was like we were just so fast.
We had a response for everything.
Response for everything. We were super fast at responding. We were hungry. There was a lot of chipping going on. You could tell we wanted it, man. We were there. We were focused. We brought it. And I think after that was it. I mean, the rest of the game, we dictated it. And it was all Michigan. I mean, defensively, we really did what, and I have on my Twitter page, I believe that our rush was going to beat their offense. Our defensive rush was going to beat their offense, and it did. I believed our quarterback was going to beat their quarterback in ratings, and he did. So overall, we were just a way better team, and it really showed. So.
And on the screen, I mean, obviously you can tell by the score and the way that we responded quickly that we were definitely the better team, and we had everything to match them. But let's look a little bit more statistically and see from position to position and see different ways of how Michigan really outgained them, how Michigan out-tackled them, how Michigan really did the small things on the statistical side that really show that we were the better team in this past game. And look, we're going to hear a lot of things from, Minnesota's defense had a lot of people that they had to replace. The bottom line is this. Minnesota's offense was coming back strong. They had Tanner Morgan. They had their running back. They had Rashad Bateman. They had a seasoned offensive line. Even though a couple of them were with COVID, they still were rotating players. This was a good offense that we were facing. And so as we go through the statistical side, Kyle, why don't you go ahead and share with us and get in depth a little bit on what we saw this past weekend?
Well, yeah. I mean, pretty much the big thing was, the big 8-yard pass from Ben Mason.
Yep.
Where he flipped up in the air and then came down and scored the touchdown. That was awesome. That reminded me of a couple years, or it was last year, 2 years ago, when he jumped over that player.
Nebraska,
Maryland, or Nebraska. Yeah, it was Nebraska. He jumped over that player. I mean, it was just awesome. It was an iconic, epic. Another play by Ben Mason. Some people wanted to kind of think that maybe he was out of bounds beforehand, but you can't tell the file on cameras.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like
it's hard to overrule that when the rules are made from the field. Yeah.
Yeah. Plus, when I seen it, it looked like his other hand with the ball was over the pylon before his hand hit that out of bounds. Anyway. So yeah, Ben Mason really showing up big, which I thought was awesome. Eric All, this dude was been praised by Harbaugh. He as probably one of the best tight ends to ever come through Harbaugh era, which is saying something. That's a statement because I mean, you got Jake Butt, you got some pretty good tight ends that came through Michigan. So Eric All, he did really good at his blocking. I mean, he was awesome, amazing blocking Saturday night. He did have that massive drop pass that would have been a touchdown. But the thing is, it's like Harbaugh said, he's so used to naturally knowing that he's going to catch a pass that he just turned his head too fast and dropped it. He redeemed himself on that next play with that pitch and catch. And Joe Millen, I mean, I praise him for that too, for him to be able to redeem himself, redeem Eric All by going right back to him right after that and installing that confidence was amazing. That was on point. That
showed a lot of maturity in Joe Milton. Showed a lot of maturity in Joe Milton to do that.
Leadership. That was awesome. So Eric All, hat off, did a really good job in place there for Josh Uche, who was out. So I mean, head off for him. Pretty much moving on here, we had the biggest person of the day, Joe Millen. I mean, he really felt the pocket presence. He was very poised. The whole team was poised, but he was very good at directing where he wanted the ball to go. And you could tell once he got settled into the game, he really started to take off with his legs, and he started really getting used to running around the corners, bouncing out. When he didn't see somebody open or the pocket was collapsing, he was doing a really good job of shaking off defenders and making them pay with his legs. So he did a really, really good job. The thing is we ran a West Coast balanced spread offense, and it worked to the T. Josh Gaddis, the fruit of his labor has came to fruition. I love that Harbaugh has given him full reins. He has sat back. Now Harbaugh is the CEO, and Josh Gaddis has taken full control. He's moving it to the players. The players have full control of this offense. I love to see Harbaugh doing that. Another thing, I mean, kudos to Harbaugh. He wore blue pants instead of his khakis this time.
That's right.
I think that had a huge
shout out to the blue pants.
Shout out to blue pants. So moving on for that, Josh Gaddis, shout out. You're amazing. Ed Warner, man, bring the brink trucks around his house over and over again and just dump cash, because this man needs a lifetime contract for Michigan football, because
bring that man to Waffle House and buy him a all-star breakfast, because that's what he is. He's an all-star. I mean, the dude is, to see what he has done with their offensive line is just amazing, man. Amazing.
I mean, Harbaugh said it. And Jalen Mayfield even had a Twitter after the game with him going this. Woo! It said before, after, and before I was getting recruited to Minnesota. After, here I am.
The little brown jug.
The little brown jug. Him and Vastardis. So that Harbaugh said, hats off to Jalen Mayfield, Vastardis. They did really wonderful. They did. They're blocking. They're pulling. You can tell they were ripping to the right. Perfect. Perfect composure. The way they went off with the right foot. I mean, they're just fast. They're hitting, they're blocking. Everything was quick, powerful. I would have to say, I mean, they all did good up front. Chuck Filiaga did good.
Yep.
Stuber did good. And again, Eric All was really good with his tight end blocking. So the biggest one I wanted to kind of jump to, though, is, I mean, we didn't talk about him too much yet, is Hassan Haskins. Yeah. I mean, as a running back, he was the top top for our stats with the offense. I mean, he was amazing. And I was thinking Charbonnet would have been kind of the top leader for that running back room, but it ended up being Hassan Haskins. Charbonnet ended up with only, I think, 4 or 5 carries, but with that 70-yard run was really what he had.
Which I think is super positive, because we have such a deep running back room that we're going to keep all these guys fresh with the way that we're rotating them in and out. And Haskins is really our bruiser. Charbonnet is a bruiser, but he also has speed. Chris Evans is more the elusive, back who can make moves and stuff around the edge. And then Blake Corum, as a freshman so far, we know that he's a really big speed guy who can take it up the gut as well. And so, but yeah, I mean, Haskins had a huge night, and the guy, just the way that the guy is patient and he reads his blocks and goes forward, man, is just amazing to watch.
Yeah. And again, Joe Millen, I'll touch on him one more time, that the fact that he's so big, he's 6'6", 225 to 230, whatever pounds. I mean, when
245, he's 245.
Yeah, that's right.
Dude's a beast.
He's huge, dude. I mean, for this guy, when he falls, let's say you're going to tackle him, and he's going to gain another 3-4 yards as he falls, because he's just so big. He reminds me kind of a mixture of Vince Young, a little bit of. I mean, I thought he looked a lot kind of like Cam Newton a little bit, or Josh Allen, the way he can pick up some yards. But yeah, so Joe Millen, again, I'm going to be talking about him, bouncing around to him all night, because I was just super impressed with his composure, his poise.
Now what about on the defense? What about on the defense side of the ball?
Well, I mean, defensive side, I mean, we really, I mean, Carlo Kemp had 1 sack, but he did really good. I really like Carlo Kemp. Like I said, I told you, I put on Twitter, I said, dude, is this dude like in fast forward right now? Because like he got off that ball so fast right off the bat and really set the tone for that defensive line by getting that sack on Tanner Morgan. And then after that, Quiddy Pay finally showed up, started really working that edge with his 2 sacks. Julius Welschoff, who we've talked about before, the German, who, I mean, this dude is young, but he's very talented, really gifted, and he got that half a sack with Cam McGrone, the quarterback of the defensive group. And I mean, Donovan Jeter, again, 15-yard catch. I was really shocked. That was, I think, one of the interesting things was to see how many rotating players had big games. I mean, Donovan Jeter, 15-yard touchdown. I mean, I would never, if you could take me back to the past and bring me back to the future, it's like I would just never thought that Donovan Jeter would have a 15-yard catch in the end zone. It's just or a fumble recovery, but from Tanner Morgan, so it's I think the biggest one was Michael Barrett too. Michael Barrett, Viper position. I mean, he was amazing. Dax Hill was great the first half until he got injured. And then we had Makari Page come in, and it showed some of our weaknesses there, with him having, but it was good because he had to get his feet wet, had to get some salt in those boots. And so it was good for him to learn, good for him to get in there and start figuring things out. Dax Hill, I think, will be okay. I haven't heard too much yet.
I heard he'll be fine.
So that's good. But Dax Hill was lights out. Like you said before, he's a lot like Charles Woodson. He kind of reminds you of that style. Harbaugh praised Michael Barrett pretty hard, and really compared him to Jabril Peppers.
Yeah.
In his press conference, which I thought that was a statement too. So big things from this defensive group. We already expected for this defensive group to not be, all stars right off the bat, because there were so many people that had to new faces, so many rotating players that would come in. So we weren't expecting lights out defense. We're expecting the same Don Brown type of defense.
Yeah.
And we've seen that. And I think there was obviously some weaknesses that we've seen. But we played against a really good Minnesota team with a lot of really good junior offensive linemen. You have Bateman, who's an all-star pro that's ready to go to the pros. Tanner Morgan, one of the best quarterbacks in the league. So I think we did a really good job of stopping them and preventing them from major damage. And our offense just really, I think, brought everything together. So
overall,
hats off to the defense. They did a good job. Yep. Overall, good job. Now, defensive line there was some issues with the defensive line. They were kind of getting blown up here and there with some of the rushing runs, but that was a little bit of a concern. But the biggest concern, I think, came from the special teams group with Jake Moody last night, on Saturday night, with his 0 for 3 kicks.
Yeah.
But so running to the stats real quick, just to give you some quick run-ups. Joe Milton had 15 for 22, 225 yards, touchdown, a passing touchdown, 8 carries for 52 yards, 1 touchdown on the ground, and no picks. 0 interceptions for the big boy Joe Milton. Now, is that super impressive? No, it's not, a huge amount of yards and all that. But look, he did the job. He got it done. He was really good.
Yeah.
Would I put him right there with Justin Fields quite yet, or with our boy over there at Wisconsin, who I think we just found out he was tested positive for COVID, but they're going to do some more testing there. Graham Mertz. But if he is out, it'd be a 21-day leave that he might have to take for this positive COVID test, which would put him out against Michigan. But that's just a side note. So Joe Milton, do I put him with that group quite yet? No, he's not quite there yet. But as he settles in this year, as he really learns and he gets that confidence and experience under his belt, I think by the end of the year we could be looking at that at a just as elite as Justin Field or Graham Mertz. And I have a lot of confidence in him, and I have a lot of trust in him. I think the team does too. Harbaugh does, and I think we're going to see that. So going on, the game plan was perfect for Michigan, and they did it to the T. 31 carries for 256 yards, 5 touchdowns. Hassan Haskins with 6 carries, 82 yards. Blake Corum, 5 runs for 24 yards. Chris Evans got in the end zone, which was amazing. Hats off to Chris Evans.
Big comeback.
Big comeback, dude. It's very hard to do that. So, Chris Evans, lots of love to you, my boy. Ronnie Bell had 4 catches, leader for the wide receiver group for 74 yards. As Urban Meyer said this, the great teams, the elite teams are the ones who have a balanced team. Balanced defense, balanced offense. They kind of can plug anywhere and make up for that with other spots. And Michigan showed that. Same with Ohio State, but Michigan really showed that. 256 yards rushing, 225 yards passing, and 478 yards total. Joe Milton did a great job balancing and being in a multiple style attack quarterback with a multiple style offense. Roman Wilson, Blake Corum, and Eric all got in there as well, and they did really good as some young bucks. So we didn't have one standout wide receiver, one standout running back. They all kind of shared the payload, and they did a oneness effort, and that's what Harbaugh was trying to get at before the game. I think they knew what they wanted, and they went and got it there at the Minnesota Stadium. Moving on to Minnesota real quick. So this is where our defense comes in. And like I said, we praise the defense because of these stats real quick from Minnesota. Tanner Morgan had 18 to 31 passes, 197 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 115.6 passer rating. Joe Millen had 169.1 passer rating, completely beating out Tanner Morgan, who is supposed to be the all-time, just one of the best elite quarterbacks in the Big Ten, right? Joe Millen had at least amount of mistakes out of 2 quarterbacks, which was, I think, part of the game plan if we wanted to win, right?
Yep.
Rashad Bateman had 9 catches for 101 yards and with a 38-yard catch. But you know what? 101 yards, his biggest one was 38. I think that was pretty good. We did a good job of stopping them, keeping them contained for the most part. It's Bateman, the Batman. Yeah. I thought we did a pretty good job. It was all real low impact. The only thing I would have to say that I wrote down during the game was it seemed like some of our defense was confused at times, kind of like we were last year with Ohio State. It's like where are we supposed to be, So I think we need to clean that up. We got to still figure out some stuff with Don Brown. With some of the defensive backs, some of the man-on-man. But overall, great job. I praise Don Brown. They did a good job. They had a plan with Bateman, and they did a good job with it. So Minnesota ended up with 326 yards total on offense, 197 yards to the air, 129 on the ground. And the only thing else I have to say on the stats of the day is Jake Moody was 0 for 3. Last snap was not good. The holding, the kicking, the whole placing was it was bad.
Yeah.
I do think Nordine might have his job back, or at least he's going to be competing again for this kicking position, because Moody really was bad. The thing is, that's 9 points right there. That could have been easily those 9 points plus some of these other errors that we made. We could have easily blown out Minnesota 63, 60, even up to 68 to 24, Now, on Twitter, I did say my prediction was going to be 45 to 24, and I was right. Yep. I was 4 points off, so I think my prediction was pretty dang close. I threw it all over Twitter. Some people liked it. Chris Vallis liked it. So I was like, hey, man, 45 to 24. Let me see if I can predict again right. So I threw another tweet out to another Twitter page saying Michigan predicting to beat Michigan State. I won't say it. Yeah, I'll wait until the end of this video to say that.
Yeah, and again, I think overall, they played well. I think going back to defense a little bit, it was different from when we were making mistakes against Ohio State. It's younger players making mistakes. At least they were going 100%, and they weren't getting beat. They were doing what they had to do. Obviously, some of them being in the right position, it's only gonna be something that they improve on. But overall, again, I think it was a great win. It was a great win for Michigan. Obviously, we have to clean up some things, especially in the kicking game and in protection when it comes to punts and field goals and stuff. But overall, I think it was a great win. And now we're moving on. It's quick. It's a quick 8-game season. As much as we want to relish and enjoy the win against Minnesota, we're moving on. We got Michigan State this week, and it's a big rival week. It's big brother versus little brother. It's house divided. And before we get into Michigan State here in these last couple of minutes that we have on the show tonight, I just want to say that this episode, again, is brought to you by Nick Reed Media. Nick is a young gentleman who works at our church, and he does a fantastic job with graphics and photos. And so if any of you guys are needing any media needs, any graphics or anything done, you can go ahead and contact him. Again, that is Nick Rittenauer with Nick Reed Media. And so Kyle, as we move on here to this week against Michigan State, again, this is a team that really was left in shambles by Mark D'Antonio. Mel Tucker comes in February. The program gets shut down. The whole country gets shut down with COVID, and they barely have any time to get recruiting, to get with players on the practice field. Spring ball was canceled. Sorry, that's my baby making noises right there. And so that they really didn't have a whole lot of time, and it showed. They got blown out by Rutgers. It did not. I mean, the score at the end was a little bit closer, but they had 7 turnovers. The only thing they really did was run the ball. You can tell that he's trying to just instill some basics with his team there. But Kyle, why don't you go ahead and bring us through some things that we can look forward to this week, how we match up, because on paper, I mean, we should win this game 60 to 7 or 60 to 10. I mean, it should just be a complete blowout. But knowing that it is a rival, knowing that it is an in-state rival, we know that anything can be expected there. And so, but why don't you go ahead and bring us through what we can expect this weekend, how we match up, and what this game is going to look like.
Well, I mean, the biggest thing is first, before we can really match ourselves up against Michigan State, we got to look at what happened with Michigan State this last weekend against the Rutgers. I mean, man, the Rutgers looked like a team of the past, when they're in their first days. I was shocked because, like I said, I was on a date with my wife, and I looked down and see Michigan State getting manhandled there, and ended up losing the game. I didn't think they were going to lose the game. I thought Michigan State would end up pulling it off somehow, but they ended up losing against the Rutgers, and I'm like, okay, well, I got to break this down and figure out why. But really, I guess it's just the first. Really, I mean, it's pretty bad. It couldn't have been a worse start from Mel Tucker era at Michigan State football. I mean, it was 38-27 versus the Rutgers. There was 7 turnovers. Okay. The turnovers, the penalties, the blown assignments, the missed tackles, that was all in the first quarter. That's really where it started. So a lot of mistakes, a lot of first quarter mistakes. This retooled Spartans failed to impress. They turned over the ball, like I said, 7 times. I mean, it's unbelievable how many times you can turn over the ball. I mean, if you turn over 1 or 2 balls against a good team, that's usually it. I think your percentage chance goes down to like 50%. 20-25% every time you turn over the ball in a pretty serious situation. So, I mean, this is the most since 1981. So the Rutgers ended a 21-game conference losing streak, beating Michigan State and at the Spartan Stadium. I mean, it's at the Spartan Stadium. I know there's cutouts and not really many fans there, but still, I mean, it's pretty impressive. Lombardi had 31 for 43 catches completed, 319 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. So not impressive with the interceptions.
Which statistically, that's not. I mean, besides interceptions, that's a pretty good game. I mean, he only missed 12 passes. It's 3 touchdowns. So I would say, I hope our defense is going to be ready for maybe some of those things that they have planned in the passing game there.
Yeah, his passing game was, 3 touchdowns, 319 yards, not bad. Definitely. The thing with Michigan State is their offensive line is horrible.
Yeah, they're not good.
They're horrible. I mean, the 2 interceptions probably came from rushing. I mean, it's going to get worse because Michigan is going to bring it. So I do see a weakness with Michigan State just with their offensive line. Jaden Reed had 11 receptions, 128 yards, 2 touchdowns. He did have a 50-yard catch for a touchdown, but then he also had 2 fumbles. So he's supposed to be their big wide receiver wideout here. Jay Simmons, their running back, had 14 carries for 43 yards. So that's a lot of carries. They're trying to run it, trying to get it up and go. I know Mel Tucker he brought out that new defense. I think he's trying out, but it just obviously it's not working. It's not whatever they're trying to do right off the bat has not worked well. They're having problems with sloppy penalties and turnovers, and it's showing. Do I feel bad? No, I don't at all.
Not at all.
I mean,
but I think
for
it's safe to say, look, this is going to take time for him to do what he wants to do, and I think eventually he's going to. I think Mel Tucker has the potential to turn this program back into a stable program to where we're going to have to be more on the lookout for. But as far as this year goes, I mean, they're literally in the middle of a rebuild. They're trying to figure out how to just survive 2020. You can't really define Mel Tucker in this season. I think the biggest thing that's going to be a win for Michigan State this year is, do they play with tenacity? Do they play with grit? Do they play with not wanting to give up and doing the small things right? Not having sloppy penalties, not turning the ball over, doing the small things right to where they can eventually get right with their schemes, turn those things in the right direction, and continue to build on that. I don't think they're going to be there for a while, and I think 2020 has really put them behind, and you can see that in that first game. And I think you're going to see that this week too against Michigan. I mean, the way you look at our offense, I think Michigan State could very easily put up some points on us. Maybe being a rival game, they could very well put up a couple touchdowns. I just think our offense is going to be way too much for them to handle. I'm going to do my prediction right now, and I'm going to say Michigan's going to win 53 or 56-20. I think it's going to be that big of a blowout. I don't even being an in-state rival, I don't see. I could be wrong, but I think Michigan's going to really handle them right now. What do you think, Kyle? What's your Kool-Aid prediction? What's your Kool-Aid prediction?
Well, before I go there, I want to just send out a couple more stats real quick on these wide receivers for Michigan State. The thing is, Jaden Reed and Jalen Naylor, they are dynamic. They're shown to be a duo when they get the ball, when they have success. So I think they do have some type of dynamic duo going on there with Jalen Naylor and Jaden Reed. Reed transferred from Western Michigan and then set out last season, became the first MSU player in history to have more than 100 yards receiving in his debut, 128 yards, 11 catches, and 2 touchdowns. Added 65 yards on kickoff returns and including a 29-yarder. So Naylor finished with a career best in yards, 84, and 6 catches and a touchdown on a 30-yard reception. I think Rocky Lombardi, I think that he is a good quarterback, and we have to be careful of him.
Yep.
So we're going to have to get to the rush again. Defensive end, Drew Beasley, one of the question marks coming into the season. He's a former walk-on, looked disruptive and energized on the edge. He's a fifth-year senior. He also forced a fumble and had and served as an anchor on the edge as Jacob Panasiuk, Jack Camper, and Michael Fletcher rotated in the other defensive end spot. Running back Elijah Collins, probably one of the biggest mysteries coming out of Saturday's loss is what's going on with Collins. He was supposed to be the biggest top recruiting rusher, returning rusher in the Big Ten. Sophomore did not start, though. It ended up being Connor Hayward who got the nod with 10 touches and limited duty. Collins looked sluggish on his 9 carries that netted just 3 yards. So Coach Mel Tucker inferred the decisions to use Hayward over Collins because it was a competition-related thing going on there. So I'm not really sure. That's weird for that to happen. MSU used 2 other running backs with true freshman Jordan Simmons and setting a team high with 14 carries and 43 yards. So he might be the future for MSU right there. But the offensive line, they suffered. They're not doing too well, and I think that's going to be their weak point.
So what's your bold prediction then with that?
Okay, with my bold prediction, with what's going on here, you got a weak offensive line. You got I really think I'm going to go with, and this is what I even said on my Twitter page. I posted it. I said Michigan staff will beat the Michigan State staff, and that's really what this is going down to. I already tweeted out to a guy what my prediction would be. I think I'm going to just stick with that.
Yep.
That early prediction of the week, I'm going to stick with it, even though it's really kind of out there. Again, I'm drinking the blue Kool-Aid. But you know what? I was only 4 points off, and people thought I was crazy this last game, right?
That's right. So give it to us.
I mean, I predict 69-13.
Oh, wow. That is bold. Yeah, I'm going.
I predict 69-13.
He's got his Michigan helmet on right now. I love it. That's his bold prediction hat. I'm sticking with. I'm saying 53 or 56 to 10 or 53 or 56 to 20. One of those two. They might get some garbage points at the end, but I think we're just gonna completely ruin them. Whatever those scores are.
The way I predicted this was, I'm guessing at least 2 touchdowns per quarter or so.
Yeah.
I mean, we're looking at a couple of field goals, and obviously, I think in that fourth quarter we're gonna be rotating a lot of newer guys out. I think there's gonna be, we'll really slow it down there by the third, fourth quarter. I do think Michigan State's going to come out better than they did the first game against Rutgers. I think they'll clean up a little bit more on the penalties and the fumbles and the interceptions. I think they'll look better, and I think it could be tight. The first quarter could be a little tight. I would say Michigan State would score a touchdown, in the first quarter or second quarter.
Yep.
But I think they're going to be kicking a lot of field goals. They're going to get in range where they'll kick those field goals. And so I really think it'll be a 69-13 game. I almost wanted to go 69-17 or 69-21, but I'm just going to stick with 13 because, it's Michigan State, man.
Yeah.
I don't want to see them score at all. I would rather be like 100-0, just pull a Ryan Day, 100-0.
Well, you never know. It's big. And in the game behind you, I think the score that they may have seen last is like 17-7. Let you know it's 2004. Michigan comes back. They go into 3 overtimes. Throw the ball up to Braylon Edwards. They win that game against Michigan State. That's on right there behind you. And most importantly, we're playing for another trophy. This is the Paul Bunyan Trophy, and we get to win this game again. We get to keep the Paul Bunyan Trophy in Ann Arbor. Put the Maze pants on him. You can go ahead and buy Christmas ornaments of the Little Brown Jug and Paul Bunyan Trophy. Put it on your Christmas tree. I'm going to be doing that this year. But that's all we have for tonight, and I'm excited as we move into Michigan State week. I'm so excited for this game. A couple of closing things that we need to do here before, which is a tradition on this show, is we need to, Kyle's throwing up the block M there. I love it. Kyle, we need to have a moment of silence for our 3 dogs that have passed away, Corky, Suds, and Mia. So why don't we go ahead and just give all of them in one go at it a moment of silence. We love those dogs very much. And last but not least, too, we want to give a shout out to the Murder Wolf, who we are going to continue to advocate for to be Michigan's unofficial mascot. He already is. But we want to see him on the field as soon as COVID is over. And so whoever we need at on Twitter or go after, he needs to be there. Again, that's Murder Wolf. He's a great friend and family of the Michigan community and Michigan football and sporting community. And so we're going to leave it with this.
Oh, another thing, too. Hey, Michigan State fans, where you at? I thought you were always going to be there, right? Is that what D'Antonio said? We're always going to be there.
D'Antonio said it's not over. It'll never be over. Well, D'Antonio, it is over for you, my friend.
Hey, we're back to the old days, baby.
That's right. We're back to the old days. Good.
Beating up on little brother. Little brother.
Right where it needs to be.
Hashtag go blue. Go blue.
And for all you Buckeye fans out there, again, we're going to continue to say this overall record just so you remember it. This year it's going to be 59, 51, and 6. But until then, we'll leave you with this: 58, 51, and 6. Michigan still has the most wins in college football. They had the most Big Ten championships in college football. They rule and they reign over you down there in Columbus.
Another thing is, too, all the Twitter guys who keep talking crap about 58, 51 to 6. Oh, that was, if you take it all the way from the very beginning of 100 years, hundreds and hundreds of years ago. Look, you want to talk about the past 20 years or the past 50 years or 30 years, then you might as well go all the way back. Look, the record is the record. So you can sit here and talk crap about the past 20 years, but look at, there was no Ohio State fans 50 years ago, 40 years ago. We're going to leave it at that. Because, at the end of this year, I can't wait.
We'll go ahead and leave it at that. But again, go blue and we cannot wait to celebrate this victory next week after we dominate our in-state rival, Michigan State. So until next time, we'll see you guys here at the Gulo.